Je li većina prepreka i neprijatelja s kojima se susrećemo na neki način rezultat našeg mentalnog mehanizma? Jesmo li zapravo žrtve vlastitih negativnih misli? Iako akademsko istraživanje pozitivne svjesnosti ili namjere, kako se to ponekad naziva, nije toliko obilno kao recimo istraživanje nutricionizma, ipak je ta tema iz nekog razloga u ljudskom društvu prisutna već tisućama godina. Mnogobrojna istraživanja u raznim psihološkim i neurološkim časopisima pokazala su učinak kontrole negativnih misli i emocija na bolesti, bolove, san, snalaženje u novim životnim situacijama, učenje, starenje i rast telomera, te rast moždane mase. Korisne spoznaje s obzirom na općeniti osjećaj negativne tjeskobe koje se čini toliko prisutan u suvremenom društvu. O učincima misli na fiziologiju i kako ih staviti pod vlastitu kontrolu razgovarali smo s Tonijem Samarom ovdje, na rubu znanosti. Dobro večer. Toni Samara autor je nekoliko knjiga, rekli bismo, duhovne tematike, ali između svih tih područja davno su se već počele brisati granice. Dobro večer.
Good evening.
Razgovarat ćemo o negativnim mislima, što znači da ćemo razgovarati i pozitivnim mislima, i o onom području akademskog istraživanja koje se zove pozitivna svjesnost ili često put se naziva i namjerom. Ono naravno nije toliko istraživano i toliko poznato kao neka druga područja poput recimo nutricionizma. Međutim, ipak se o tome raspravlja evo već tisućama godina, a zadnjih godina iz raznih smjerova i kuteva stižu i potvrde da doista naše misli na neki način oblikuju u najmanju ruku našu fizičku stvarnost. 70-ih godina liječnici bi recimo odmahnuli rukom kada bi im neko rekao u kojoj mjeri emocije mogu pridonijeti zdravlju ili bolesti. Danas to više ne rade, danas je dio općeg znanja postalo da na neki način čovjek sa svojim unutarnjim stanjem stvara svoje vanjsko stanje. I sada dolazimo i do točke gdje se razgovara o namjerno stvorenom jednom mentalnom stanju pozitivnih namjera ili pozitivnog stava, a pritom se opet treba paziti da se ne pređe ona tanka granica koja čovjeka vodi ono što se popularno naziva filozofija think pink ili misli ružičasto, što znači ako ćeš misliti ružičasto da će svi problemi samo tako nestati. Zapravo se ne radi o tome, niti će se to dogoditi. Pa za početak, kako biste vi definirali to područje pozitivne svjesnosti ili to područje koje se često put naziva utjecajem namjere ili namjere stvorene mentalno? Koja bi bila vaša definicija?
Okay. My definition of awareness is that you're aware of your body, your mind, your emotions in this present moment. And most people are lost in their thinking, habitual thinking or reactions to certain situations that have nothing to do with this moment. It's just simply thoughts that you're having about a situation that happened maybe yesterday or last year or 10 minutes ago. So it's not relevant to the awareness of this present moment. So awareness is basically expanding our comprehension of what is going on inside of us, but on all levels, physical, emotional, mental, energetic, and that is positive awareness. Intention is the focus to allow that to be present in whatever you're doing. If you're sitting and talking to someone, if you're eating, if you're walking, how can you be positively aware of the experience, and how can you make that experience much more than just an unaware experience?
Da, ljudi obično jesu, doista svi mi smo zatočeni u događaju od jučer, prije tjedan dana ili 10 godina, i isto tako prepuni briga u vezi onog što će se dogoditi sutra, hoće li za 3 dana nešto krenuti po zlu ili neće. Međutim, usmjeravanje pažnje na nekakav trenutak u kojem se živi ne znači da čovjek ne može planirati budućnost ili razmišljati o stvarima koje će se dogoditi, jer on na neki način to i treba napraviti, ali opet ne smije dopustiti da ga se uvuče u tu zamku negativnih ishoda u budućnosti. Kako može čovjek napraviti ravnotežu između onog što treba planirati, organizirati, razmisliti, a opet da se ne nađe uvučen u različite scenarije koje također mora graditi, ali možda se i može i pretjerati sa takvim scenarijima i ishodima koji se najčešće ne dogode uopće?
Well, to start with, it's important to know that most people spend a lot of their life thinking about negative scenarios, trying to resolve negative scenarios, trying to resolve situations that they're not happy with. So in actual fact, they're wasting their experience that is happening in this moment. So when you are aware that this is what you're doing, that awareness already sets you up for understanding how to put positive awareness into practice. And positive awareness is being aware of how your body is experiencing reality in this moment, how your emotions are reacting in this moment, not from habits or thoughts or socialization that has happened in the past, but from the actual experience. So as soon as you do that, you realize that a lot of what you think and a lot of what you feel is much more than previous. If you were reacting to a situation in a negative way, you see that there is a positive possibility in the experience that you didn't think about because you're too busy caught in the negative. So this would be step number one, dropping the negative thoughts, dropping the reactions that we normally have as habits to situations, and opening up ourselves to something much more. And this is why it is important to have an intention, because it's very difficult to remember this if the situation, for example at work, a situation is so frustrating or so creating anger inside of oneself that it is difficult to see something positive in the situation, and you get caught in that feeling. It's difficult to let it go. But with an intention, if you say to yourself, what is my body feeling in this moment? What is my emotions reacting to in this moment? Then all of a sudden you can open up to something much more than the negative that's happening.
Negativne misli, sada kad smo već dosta zakoračili u 21. stoljeće, nisu tek nekakva apstrakcija, nekakav duhovni pristup ili umjetnička forma. Oni imaju i svoje potvrde u mnogobrojnim istraživanjima gdje se zapravo upravo takve stavove, pozitivne ili negativne, povezuju sa određenim učincima koji su mjerljivi na tijelo, na mozak, na količine raznih hormona. Pa možemo proći kroz jedan pregled tih suvremenih istraživanja koje pokazuju u kojoj mjeri su takve stvari vrlo stvarne, jer danas ipak najstvarnijim još uvijek smatramo ono što možemo izmjeriti, a utjecaj pozitivnih misli ili namjera doista jest mjerljiv. Konkretno, krenimo od onog popularnog neprijatelja današnjice, tako su ga bar nazvali, stres. On izvorno nije bio neprijatelj, on je nama služio za određene svrhe, međutim moderno društvo je naravno jedna tvornica takvih događaja sa svojim sustavima odvlačenja pažnje i sl. Istraživanja koja su objavljena u žurnalu Health Psychology su na neki način povezala povezivanje te pozitivne svjesnosti, da tako zovemo, namjere i vladanje svojim mislima sa stanjem stresa u čovjeku. Koji se tu mehanizmi događaju na razini čovjekovog fiziološkog stanja?
Yes, that's very important when it comes to positive awareness, because if you study the biology of a human being, we have been programmed to either fight or flight from a situation, and that creates stress if we are not able to do either of those situations or react with that biology inside of us to a situation outside. So if, for example, a situation is very frustrating and you have that reaction inside of yourself, you want to fight or you want to run away from the situation, but you can't because, say, you're working and it's your boss and you're frustrated with your boss, but you have to just keep a stiff upper lip and keep working, doing what you're doing, then that stress is created in the body where cortisol is produced by the body, and that creates a lot of stress because you're not dealing with the energy that's coming up inside of you. You're not dealing with the hormones that are being released inside of you. You're not running away. You're not fighting the situation. You're just static and passive. And this is why positive awareness is interesting, because actually you can use the reaction to that situation so that you bring your thoughts and your feelings into the situation and deal with it in a better way. So you can move your thoughts from anger or frustration to something positive inside of you. So you can say, oh, okay, this is my boss, but how can I turn this situation into a win-win scenario for me and for my boss? how can I change the reaction to this situation so that the stress hormones aren't affecting me, where I feel depleted, where my body and physiology of my body get damaged and I feel sick or tired or frustrated. How can I be positive in this situation?
Na neki način pobjeda nad kortizolom u tom trenutku već dopušta čovjeku da se počne ponašati drugačije nego kao da je u ropstvu od strane kemikalije koja mu na neki način određuje ponašanje. Već ste spominjali kako svi mi vrtimo nekakve negativne scenarije, negativne ishode kako bismo se pripremili za sve moguće situacije, tako barem razmišljamo. Međutim, treba razlikovati ono što je stvarno i ono što je nestvarno i postoje studije također u tim časopisima od kojih ste vi neke i popisali, konkretno Psychological Science je ime časopisa koji je pokazao na koji način čovjek može pomoću te pozitivne svjesnosti utjecati na nešto što se naziva nekakvim slijepim točkama nerealnosti ili nestvarnim slijepim točkama. Što bi to uopće značilo?
Okay, most of us believe that we're a victim to a situation, that we're not empowered to act in a positive way. So we believe that the situation is negative and we are a slave, as you said before, to the chemical reaction of that situation rather than seeing that we're empowered to act in a positive way. So blind spots are those aspects of ourselves that we think are real. So we may think we're a victim or powerless in that situation, and we believe that so deeply that it creates an inability to act in a positive way. It creates just a blind spot. I'm this, so why even try? What shall I do? Because this situation is so negative. It's not my fault. I can't manage to change it, so what do I do? And usually people just think negatively about themselves, so create a negative belief system about themselves, which keeps the thinking in that negative circle, and negative breeds more negative thoughts inside of oneself, and also physical reactions to those thoughts create more physical reactions to those thoughts. So that is a blind spot. You know, we believe in a paradigm that is not real, and how to change it is to empower ourselves by saying, okay, maybe I am in this moment a victim to the situation, but how can I change it? So you take it a little bit further. Rather than giving up, you see how can you take that step a little bit further than being a victim to a situation. And there is always a possibility of doing something different. You can do many things if you believe in yourself. And so positive thinking is to think of something that is beautiful or relevant in that situation, that allows the physiology of your body to change so that you are empowered to go one step further than victim thinking or habits. So many times we have habits and we believe certain pictures about ourselves. I'm not good enough, or I'm stupid, or I'm not capable of reacting in a positive way. So we believe these paradigms to be so real that we don't even know that we are thinking those thoughts. They're just reactions that happen that we realize much later. And these are blind spots, basically unconscious thought behaviors that play out in whatever situation that we're dealing with. So if...
U stvari su te slijepe točke ono što ćemo sa lakoćom uočiti kod nekog prijatelja kom je možda potreban savjet, dok kod sebe samih nećemo u tom trenutku, pa bismo morali postati neka vrst savjetnika i promatrača samima sebi na isti način na koji bismo mogli to sa jednom distancom biti prema nekom drugom čovjeku. Što naravno zahtijeva par sitnih mehanizama o kojima danas i pričamo. Bilo je dosta istraživanja provedenih i na sveučilištima u Kaliforniji i drugdje na studentima koji su pokazivali da upravo takav način razmišljanja utječe na radnu memoriju, što znači i na učenje i na rezultate, i ima dakle puno posljedica koje proizlaze upravo iz kultiviranja nekakvih tehnika koje bismo mogli nazvati kognitivima. Također pokazalo se da se događaju promjene na samom mozgu. Konkretno na sveučilištu Oregon je ustanovljeno da takve promjene mogu čak biti brana prema mentalnim bolestima. Što se u stvari može reći o toj povezanosti utjecaja takvog načina razmišljanja o kojem danas pričamo kojem je cilj izbjeći ili neutralizirati ove negativne takozvane misli, s obzirom na utjecaj na naš mozak i na sve ono što već znamo o njemu, i njegova neuroplastičnost je prisutna koja se cijeli život može na neki način modelirati.
Yes, many scientists used to believe that the brain stopped growing, or the function of the brain stopped at a certain age. But now we realize that the brain is actually constantly working in a wonderful way that is only now being discovered in science, because we have techniques of diagnosis that weren't relevant previously. And this is the neuroplasticity that allows the brain to think outside of the box, to think of situations that are not just reactions to old habits or old feelings or old habitual thinkings that we're used to, but to think outside of that. And positive awareness allows this neuroplasticity in the brain to actually fire up more, so it begins to grow, or it begins to function. The function of the brain changes, so it begins to function in a way that is learning. And this is what all human beings enjoy doing. They enjoy learning. So if you are caught in a negative thought or a negative feeling, you don't learn, because you're just repeating the same thing. You're repeating the same thought, the same feelings are being repeated inside of you. But learning means that you're stepping outside of that and experimenting to see where you can go with this situation. How can you take that challenge and learn from it? And this is what awareness and positive awareness allows people to do. And this is what they studied in California with students. They realized that students were able to be more aware of learning paradigms that were before unavailable to them. And this created quite a stir at the university, because people before thought that the brain stopped functioning at a certain age in a way it didn't grow, and now they could see through diagnosis that the brain was growing and learning new ways of dealing with situations that were quite amazing for the students. And it was relevant because they were actually learning quicker and they were retaining information in a way that was much quicker and much more interesting than before. And this is just through a simple technique, which is a meditational technique of being aware of how you're breathing, being aware of how you're thinking, what is happening in your feelings, and just being aware of the space that you're in, so that you utilize that space to step out of the box and learn from situations that obviously are not relevant if you are caught in the negative. So, you know, it's a very simple technique, but in the end it's all about practice. And these students learned how to put this meditational technique into practice after 2 sessions. And what was realized was that this learning didn't stop in the practice that they were doing. So even though putting into practice this awareness while undergoing some study helped very much, what was realized later was that that way of thinking continued even after the practice of awareness. So it is not that you have to be aware of everything that you do every moment of every day, but a simple technique that is put into practice for a few moments once a day already sets in motion a different function and structure that the brain recognizes and allows for immense learning.
Zapravo se ovdje koristi ista ona inercija koja inače radi protiv ljudi. Kada imamo misli ili neke sitne obsesije, kao ljudi koji recimo se uvijek boje da nisu zatvorili plin ili zaključali auto, oni u stvari su robovi sitnih, da kažemo, utabanih staza na mozgu koje se stvaraju istim načinom razmišljanja, koje su skoro i mjerljive i vidljive, i na neki način bi mogli tu istu inerciju preokrenuti suprotno i reći idem drugim putem, i naravno pomalo će se i mozak početi preslagivati na neke druge načine, i u stvari isto ono što bi čovjeka držalo u zamci mu može pomoći da iziđe van, kao što ste rekli, na dosta lagan način, za početak samo osvještavanjem da se to uopće može. Jer za loše stvari nismo osviješteni, to jest za loše stvari prihvaćamo na temelju mehanizama za koje nismo osviješteni da ih možemo koristiti i u vlastitu korist. Ponekad se kaže, tako su bar upotrijebili naziv u žurnalu granice Frontiers in Human Neuroscience, znači granice u neuroznanosti, rekli su da mozak radi kao neka vrst potenciometra, pojačivača. U tom kontekstu bi bilo dobro opet razmotriti utjecaj te namjerne pozitivne svjesnosti, odnosno što bi to bilo kada bismo pokušali objasniti vašu rečenicu da se osjećate više usredotočeni nego da vježbate zen.
Yes, I know I didn't reply on a part of your question previously, mental disease. So this ties into exactly what we're speaking about now, that when there is too much noise in the head, especially if the noise is a negative one, you border onto mental problems. And it's today actually very common in the world that many people are either depressed or suffer from neurosis and many mental problems because of the stress, because of what we spoke on previously about cortisol and the fight-flight situation where we are not able to deal with anything and we just believe in the negative thoughts that are inside of ourselves. When this becomes too strong, then it creates mental disease. At least I believe it creates mental disease when your brain is constantly putting thoughts into your mind that create a sense of you being alien from yourself, from that part of yourself that has self-esteem or self-worth, and then there is a loss of connection to oneself. And this is what happens when we are caught in the modern world and there is so much noise, there is so much pressure at work, at home, within ourselves to perform and to do certain things that are important, create an income, to cover our costs, to fulfill different roles that we are here to fulfill, either as parents or as a work colleague or as whatever. There are so many roles. It creates a lot of noise in the brain. So this is the volume button that I'm speaking about, that this meditational technique allows you to lower so that the space inside of your brain can relax. And you don't need to listen to that noise that very often we can't identify very clearly. We don't know what that noise is, but we just know that our mind is not still. We don't feel connected to ourselves. And this meditational technique allows you to basically come back to a stillness inside of yourself, so that that volume of noise and pressure that the noise creates isn't the one speaking, so that you are connected to yourself, and what is speaking is this inner voice of, I am able to deal with the situation, I'm able to learn from this situation, I'm not a victim to this situation, I don't need to fall into whatever thoughts my mind is creating in that moment, or whatever thoughts other people are thinking, that then creates negatives and a lot of chit-chat in the mind.
Zapravo mozak stalno radi kao taj potenciometar, samo kada radi u svoju korist nekontrolirano, onda pojačava upravo onaj dio za kojim se ovaj korteks voli baviti, alfa ritmove pune svijesti i budnosti, umjesto da nas malo spusti u one druge razine valova koje dopuštaju da čovjek bolje i šire apsorbira stvari oko sebe sa distancom. Zanimljivo što je u časopisu Psihologija glazbe ustanovljeno da takav stav dovede čovjeka, slušača glazbe, u situaciju gdje mu muzika zvuči bolje. Znači na neki način jedna promjena po pitanju nekakve namjere ili pozitivne svjetlosti ljudima otvara svjetove u glazbi koje možda prije im ostaju nekako izvan dosega čujnosti ili shvaćanja. U kojoj mjeri bi se sada glazba mogla tu pronaći u tom kontekstu pozitivne svjesnosti i općenito fokusa, s obzirom da ona doista nikada nije u fokusu kad se priča o namjeri. Uvijek se ljudi razmišljaju kako da riješe probleme u životu i slično. Međutim, eto, ovakva istraživanja u časopisima koji doista nisu jako poznati pokazuju da je puno područja oko nas u kojima bismo mogli otvoriti svakojake prozore.
Yes. One thing that people should be aware of is that being aware is not always being focused on one thing. Being aware is a state of being. So if your mind is chit-chatting away and there is so much noise in your mind, there is no place for anything else. So you cannot be aware of music or anything that is beautiful outside. So when you come to this point of inner stillness inside of you, when you lower that noise inside of you, you can connect to rhythms that are around you, like music, that create a movement of neurons in the brain that usually we don't have access to. So when we listen to music, very often we just listen to music because we are creating another noise that helps us to focus on something that is less painful than what we are thinking about or less stressful than what we are experiencing. So music becomes a way of just moving out of oneself rather than integrating the rhythms of sound and music into oneself. And it is found that, as you quote in the journal there, that by being positively aware, the brain is able to access the rhythms of music that normally it is not connected to. So when we listen to classical music, or any music for that matter, we are able to connect to different rhythms that we normally don't have access to, because we create a stillness inside of our brain that is more open to those rhythms. We're naturally open to those rhythms anyway. All children who don't have so much stress as adults have an innate capacity to understand music and movement, and that is part of what makes human beings so special. We have a capacity to relate to music and the language of music, which creates the possibility to be human, and this is lost when the brain is caught in other noises and other rhythms of stress. And I believe by practicing this meditational awareness that we connect to those rhythms more deeply. So we enjoy music much more, it becomes more meaningful, and our body responds to music in a different way. So instead of just listening to music as an outside source of entertainment, we integrate it into our feelings, into the way that we move with the music, and we appreciate it, we become happy. And music is an essential part of human experience. We enjoy it because it relates to something that is profound and meaningful in every human being.
Zapravo uživamo u glazbi, ali ne možemo obrazložiti zašto. Sve ovo što pričate su u časopisu Perspektive psihološke znanosti sveli na 4 elementa, pomoću kojih su pokušali na neki način bolje klasificirati utjecaj pozitivne namjere, pozitivnog stava, možda čak pogrešno reći pozitivnog, svjesnosti nekakve. Kako biste vi ta njihova 4 elementa obrazložili, objasnili i podijelili, kad već sve volimo tako slagati u larice?
Yeah, it's always important to have a map so that we know where to start. The first most important awareness is your body, because so many people are out of touch with what is happening inside of their body, the way they're breathing, the muscles in their body, how their muscles are reacting to different and various situations. If we're aware of our body, we can relax our body and we can be more open to an experience that is happening in this present moment. If we're not relaxed, if we have stress, if we're not breathing in a way that is integrated and circular and full, then we are reacting to circumstances rather than integrating them into our being and learning from them and using those situations to allow the body to experience the profoundness of that experience in that moment. So body awareness is the first thing I would recommend anyone who wants to put this into practice, just to be aware, how are you breathing? In this moment, how are you breathing? Are you breathing into your belly, or are you just breathing shallowly into your chest? Because as soon as you do this, the body recognizes that you're not what happened 10 minutes ago, or the thoughts of what will happen in the future. You're here. And that creates a space of awareness that is experiential. You can't describe it in words. Your body recognizes the space beyond words. And this is the first step, you know, to relax your body and to be aware of the muscles in your body, the muscles in your hands, the muscles.
Zapravo tijelo prepozna da konačno netko misli na njega pa se počne ponašati kako treba.
Exactly, and it starts relaxing, and without relaxation there is no space of openness to a situation that is happening around you.
Koja je onda sljedeća od ta 4 elementa?
The next step is emotional awareness, which is more complicated than the body, because of course the body is tangible, emotions come and go, and emotional and thinking awareness are both not very easy to recognize, but as soon as you relax the body, then it is much easier to understand how you're feeling and how you're thinking, because everything comes down to a space of being more easy to relate to. If your body is relaxed, you can think, okay, right now what I'm feeling is nervous, or right now what I'm feeling is happy, and that awareness brings you to a space of stillness, because you're in control of what is happening. There is no fight or flight situation that you have to deal with. You're in touch with your power, and you're empowered because you're connected to your body, you're connected to your feelings, and you're connected to your thoughts. So when this happens, then you're in control of what is going on, and you can focus that energy in a place that is relevant for learning. So rather than feeling a victim to the situation or getting caught in thoughts that are negative, you can say, okay, what is positive? What am I learning in this moment that is positive? And that in itself takes you into a space that empowers you, and you actually change the situation, because you begin to change your reactions to the situations that you're dealing with, and they become helpful rather than limiting. Very often what we are creating around us is from our perspective, our negative, limited perspective. So when we're free, then we're creating a space around us that is much more helpful.
Znači svjesnost tijela, svjesnost emocija, to bi bila 2 elementa koji bi bili preostali.
Body awareness, emotional awareness, thinking awareness, and then your awareness of yourself.
Taj mi se čini najteži. Kaže se da ovakav način razmišljanja, a zapravo ima i osnove za to, stvara zapravo bolju osobu od čovjeka. Koji mehanizam stoji iza takve promjene? Koja je možda teška za opisati, teška za definirati, ali na neki način ljudi znaju iznutra i za sebe i za druge kada su bolje osobe, kada nisu.
Yeah, you become a better person because if you are aware of your reactions, you can react to a situation in a positive way. So rather than feeling that your boss or a situation outside of yourself is taking your power away, you feel that you are able to interact in a positive way. So you speak to your boss in a more relaxed way, and your boss relaxes. So it is a win-win situation. You learn that whatever you're doing when you're empowered inside of yourself has the same effect on the outside. So you're creating a sort of reality that makes sense to people rather than just reacting from your negative. So you become a better person. You become more compassionate. You begin to understand people. You understand why people are stressed, because you've relaxed yourself to the point where you know that situation, you've had an experience of that situation, so you can help the person to come back to their center, because you are centered in understanding your feelings, understanding your thoughts, understanding your body, so you don't need to react from a negative, you react from that centered space. And people feel this. They feel that you understand, they recognize that you understand something, and they react in a better way. So you find that you change the situation simply by being empowered in yourself.
Isti onaj lanac negativnih promjena koji se stvara čistom inercijom, na ovaj način se može preusmjeriti na, evo, u žurnalu opet Psychological Science, a i na nekim istraživanjima na Harvardu pokazalo se kako jednostavno ljudi postaju više, kako bi se reklo, sućutniji, sa više sućuti, više razumijevanja, i na taj način kreće njihova promjena prema bolje komunikaciji i slično. Naravno da je pozitivno razmišljanje ili ta svjesnost o trenutku se pokazala jako dobra i u istraživanjima vezanim uz načine kako ljudi prolaze kroz recimo rak, na koji način se smanjuje depresija kod žena koje su recimo trudne, pa se obično kaže da svaka 5. ima mogućnost da zapadnu neku depresiju, pa onda problemi i razina depresije među tinejdžerima. Zanimljivo je da također potpomaže prema isto istraživanjem u tim časopisima smanjivanje težine, pa onda potom spavanja. Koji se dakle mehanizmi stoje iza svih tih zdravstvenih učinaka koje bi se mogli sad nabrajati u nedogled, ali zapravo su svi oni jedno te isto, kao što je obično zdravlje nešto što uzimamo zdravo za gotovo, a bolest ima svoj naziv. Zapravo ako gledamo bolest kao jednu izbačenost iz ravnoteže, na neki način možemo sve ove stvari i depresije i rakove i strahove svesti negdje u ovoj sferu razmišljanja i našeg odnosa prema tome. Na tom polju zdravlja kako se manifestira pozitivna svjesnost ili pozitivna namjera ili cijeli ovaj sustav, stav zapravo o kojem pričamo danas?
Yeah. So it's very relevant what you're bringing up, because as you know, so many people suffer from depression, and as you know, so many people suffer from weight gain, an image of their body that is very negative, and they struggle with this, and this creates a whole lot of suffering for so many people that today medicine doesn't really address very easily. If you're depressed or if you're overweight, it's very difficult for that person who's suffering from such things. So, you know, there is no quick cure, because positive awareness is not a fix-it tablet. It's a practice, and we have to begin at the beginning, and one has to realize that a lot of depression is a family, very often a family or emotional experience that goes back many years. So we need to first realize this, that it's not a quick cure, but that we can do things step by step. So one of the first things to do is to recognize that you're thinking negatively. To say, okay, this is what I'm doing, because until then you just think what you're doing is normal. And when you realize that what you're doing is not normal, thinking about yourself in a way that is so very negative that it repeats itself, that thought repeats itself, is not normal, then you are empowered to do something positive about it. And it's very simple. You relax your body, you breathe in.
Pokušavam, ali...
Yeah, you relax your body and you breathe in. And then it's not enough. Then you have to be aware of what is happening inside of you and around of you. So you just bring your awareness to this moment. It's difficult because we're used to being caught in everything and reacting to everything. But if you bring yourself back to this moment, I'm sitting now on my chair, I'm relaxed, and I am feeling happy. And if you're not feeling happy because you're depressed, or if there is a situation that's causing suffering, then to bring a thought of happiness into your mind and to focus on that. And this may be, it may seem like you're pretending, or like you're focusing on something that is not real. In that moment you may feel very depressed, or you may feel very negative, but the fact that you're focusing on something positive has been shown in science to change the physiology of your body. So when you think of, say, a beautiful beach, or happy people smiling, or a moment in your life where you are free, this changes the physiology of your body and begins to open your thinking to other ways of learning from this situation. So you understand the situation from beyond that negative thinking. So that's the first step. That's all you have to do. Relax, think or remember something beautiful, and then begin to feel it. Begin to feel it inside of yourself, and begin to act as if that experience is really happening in this moment.
Postoji stara izreka koja na engleskom zvuči puno bolje nego na hrvatskom: first fake it, then make it. U prijevodu prvo to lažiraj, pa će onda postati i stvarno, što je zapravo upravo ono što se i događa i sa ovim negativnim stvarima, samo nismo svjesni. Ako krenemo od postavke da su te negativne misli ili naši koncepti u stvari isto jednako nestvarni, mi smo ih prvo stvorili, pa su one postale stvarne. Na neki način isti taj mehanizam se može preokrenuti u korist i to na veselje mnogih koji recimo ne žele ostariti, jer je pokazano također, neću sad više ne čitati nazive časopisa, da ovakav stav dobro štiti telomere, odnosno krajeve kromosoma koji su odgovorni za naše starenje. I možda nekima će biti svejedno, ali također i povećava količinu sive mase u mozgu, što naravno nas dovodi u rizik da imamo još više negativnih misli koje stižu iz mozga. Ali u svakom slučaju, jeste li vi do sada imali prilike vidjeti ljude koji su uspješno nekako zadržali svoju mladolikost ili zdravlje upravo zahvaljujući svom stavu? Ne možemo im naravno zaviriti u lubanju da vidimo koliko se povećala siva masa, ali ova zaštita telomera može biti jasno vidljiva izvana.
For sure. Science has proved that with a positive, relaxed attitude, it is obvious that your body isn't producing free radicals and stress hormones that are damaging to the way you physically are, the way you look. People age much more in a society where there is stress and where there is negativity than if they're relaxed and connected to themselves. And this we see in some very long-lived people where positive awareness is practiced as a natural way of living. We see this in the Okinawa people in Japan. They live with a positive awareness. They are relaxed and connected to themselves and connected and feeling empowered by the situation that they live in. And they live a very healthy, long life. We can't say that it is simply because of positive awareness, but we know that that is one of the major aspects of life. In many of these, what is known as blue spots around the world, where people live a long time and where their genetics are changed through this positive awareness. As you were saying, the structure of the telomeres grow because there is it grows at the ends because it's healed through this positive awareness. So this is obvious from examples that we see around the world, and I've seen it in people, in the way they look, in the way that they deal with life, the vibrancy that they have in their body, the sense of well-being that they carry in their expression, and the way that they deal with life and themselves. It's so obvious in many ways that, personally, I have no doubt that positive awareness changes the physiology of your body, as well as increases your intelligence. The brain is another organ that grows when it is treated in a way that allows it to grow. If we're constantly battling with our organs by throwing in free radicals and stress hormones, then they shrink. The grey matter increases when our attitude is a positive one. When we think, we feel, and when we feel, we are, and when we are feeling good, then the body is more connected and balanced than ever before. And I believe this is why it can change physical health. Like you were saying, cancer, with a positive attitude, with a relaxed attitude, allows the body to heal itself in some ways that doctors sometimes call miracles. People have spontaneous remissions that happen simply because they believe in themselves and they're connected with deeper parts of themselves than the stress of cancer. And cancer, of course, creates stress in itself. Aging creates stress. And this is why when we put this into practice just for a few moments every day, then it's easy.
Kada se kaže da pozitivan stav prema životu pridonosi zdravlju, to je nešto što je s jedne strane svima očekivano, s druge strane pomalo apstraktno. Međutim, kada se stave na hrpu sva ova pojedinačna istraživanja, dakle točno određenih efekata takvog stanja, na rast mozga, na rast telomera, na smanjivanje hormona ovog ili onog, onda zapravo naš mozak, gladan informacija, dobiva dosta jasniju i konkretniju sliku što se zbiva, a njemu to dosta i treba. Spominjali ste generalno kako treba promijeniti stav u smislu koncentracije prema tijelu ili prema svojim osjećajima i slično. Međutim, postoje i tehnike koje ste u nekim tekstovima spominjali koje pomažu da se napravi to što ste prije nabrajali. Dakle, svima jasno, svjesnost o tijelu i tako, ali postoje i trikovi koje čovjek može na neki način koristiti da sebi pomogne. Recimo, tehnika koja bi se svodila na traženje nekakve vlastite osobine koja bi bila jako pozitivna, pa da se krene od nje. Ili recimo neke tehnike kretanja oka ili disanja. Dakle, pričamo o stvarima koje zapravo traju nekoliko sekundi, ne duže od toga, a čiji efekt ostaje čak i kad više ne mislimo na njih, nekakvom automatikom one idu. Koji bi bili to sitni, nazovimo ih trikovi, da ih ne miješamo s onim tehnikama kojima se možemo pomoći, da uđemo u stanje tog pozitivnog, svjesnog i usmjerenog nekakvog ozračja iznutra?
There are many techniques. So I started with the very simple one that everyone can do. This technique, which I would like to share with your viewers, is more complicated and it works with the brain. So we know that eye movement creates a brain response. So when we put this technique into practice, we are changing the physiology of our brain and how we react to certain situations. So, say for example, it is difficult to relax because the situation is so negative. Perhaps you go to your doctor and they mention that you have cancer. It's so negative that you can't control your reaction. The situation is overwhelming and you're disempowered by the situation. If you do this technique, I believe you can empower yourself so that you are connected to something much more profound, and that is the learning from the situation rather than the negative reaction to the situation. And the technique is very simple. You have to close your eyes. You go home, you take a few moments to relax, you breathe deeply, you have to close your eyes, and as you close your eyes, you move your eyes around. So it's difficult for me to demonstrate, but you close your eyes and you move your eyes around in a circular way. So you're focusing your eyes up here, around, and then down to your chin. And you do this with an in-breath. And then you move the opposite direction on the out-breath. Now this movement challenges the habit that your brain is used to, reacting in a negative with fear, reacting with this fight or flight. I can't deal with it, I'm disempowered. It allows the brain to open up to another level of neuron connections. It opens up and fires the neurons so that you can learn from the situation and let it go. So it's very simple. You close your eyes, you move your eyes around on the in-breath and the opposite direction on the out-breath. And as you're doing this, you think of something positive. So anything positive. And then your brain opens up to another way of understanding the situation. You learn from the situation. Now that is not to say that anyone who receives a negative news such as you have cancer is able to change it simply by thinking about something positive. It is important the attitude that you're connected to yourself in this moment and that you feel empowered to change your attitude about the situation, because then you open your brain and you open your thank you. You open your connection in the brain to something that is much more than just an old habit.
Dobro, zadržat ćemo se na ovom jednom triku, jer je jednostavan. Naravno, sve ovo drugo što smo pričali također je upotrebljivo, ali kao što ste rekli, ponekad doista nije lako izići izvan situacije, odvojiti se od nje, jer se ona čini da je jednostavno previše grozna i previše nam obuzima misli. U svakom slučaju, Toni, hvala i do sljedeće prilike, koja vjerujem da će se zbiti, jer vidim da u Hrvatsku dolazite periodično i dosta često. Doviđenja i hvala na gostovanju.
Thank you. I've enjoyed being here.
Hvala i vama na pažnji. To vjerojatno je univerzalno ljudsko iskustvo, ono u kojem se osoba zaplete u nekakve negativne misli ili neke, čak recimo zamišljene dijaloge s nekom osobom s koje je u nekoj vrsti napetosti ili tako. I čim se duže, kako bismo rekli, svađa sama sa sobom, naravno da se sve lošije fizički osjeća, sve do prave boli u želucu ili drugdje, i to zapravo pokazuje koliko su negativne misli moćne. Naravno, ako je takav osjetan učenik negativnih misli, jednako mora biti jak i učinak pozitivne svjesnosti ili namjere. I doista jest. To je izmjereno, to je i potvrđeno i u konačnici izbor se svodi na to hoće li naše misli kontrolirati nas ili ćemo mi kontrolirati njih za vlastitu dobrobit. Izbor lak kao lakava noć.